Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf Hayomi Meseches Kinnim. It's over to the second parak of Meseches Kinnim, would be a Daf Chav Gimel and Aleph right on top. So back to the bird karbanos, which we have two types. We have the chatas ha'oif, we have the oila bird. The main difference, which is the focus of our Mesech, is the placement of the dam, the location where they apply the dam, the blood on the mizbeach. So by the chatas bird, it's meant to be lamata, below. So that's below the halfway mark, below the red line which encircles the mizbeach at the halfway mark. So it's around the walls, halfway up. Below that is called lamata, where they place the dam of the chatas oif. Above that point is called lamala, upstairs, right? So that's where they place the dam of the oila oif. And you can't deviate, you can't change, even if there's some confusion, uncertainty as to what this particular bird is. Is it labeled as chatas? Is it oila? You can't just go ahead and do what you want. If you don't know, the bird is doomed. It's left to die, it goes lamisa. Now, in general, there are two types, the chatas and the oila. And we have the cane. The cane is the pair of birds. So typically, if it's an obligatory korban, so that would be a kan chayva. That kan has a chatas and an oila. Whereas if it's a donated kan, in that case, it's a double oila. So if it's a neder, a personal vow, or an adava, which is a item-based donation, this will be, then you bring a pair, either teirim, turtle doves, or b'nai young pigeons, and you have two oilos there, where both have their blood placed lamala. Whereas if it's a chayva, an obligatory pair of birds, on account of a birth, on account of a ziva, on account of other reasons, then it's one-on-one. So you have two birds, one chatas, one oila. Now you could be mefarish. You can specify, you can label them, designate them as you buy them. This is chatas, this is oila. You can leave them undesignated until further notice, until the kohen actually goes and is makrov the birds. And then he'll designate chatas and oila. If you choose this approach, then you have a kain stuma. Stam, unspecified, undesignated. So, yeah, within this pair, you have a future chatas and a future oila, but it hasn't yet been identified. You can't turn it into a double chatas, too late for that, or a double oila. Because within this pair, you have one chatas, one oila, you just haven't yet identified which one's which. So, like the previous parak, our parak will refer to confusions and mix-ups, all kinds of variations of uncertainties regarding the birds. But not to worry, it's first of all, it starts off pretty basic, pretty simple, and then it gets more elaborate, but overall the concept remains the same. You have to keep each bird in its proper location. You have to ensure there's no deviation, and it's pretty much going to be running along the same principle. There's pretty much one key to keep in mind throughout the whole parak, which will keep on recurring and be applied in various scenarios. So let's start with a simple halacha. It says the Mishnah, kain stuma. We have this pair which is unspecified. One is slated for chatas, the other one for oila, but it's not yet been identified. Sheparach mimena goes alaver. One of these two flew off into thin air, disappears. We have one left. Or one of the birds flew off and joined a group of doomed birds. For whatever reason, they can't be offered, they can't be processed, they're mesais, so this one joined them. So it's pretty much as good as lost. And there's one survivor right here in the cage, his partner. Or one of these two died. Basically, three variations of the same dilemma. You start with a pair, you're left with one. What do? You have to start all over again? No, you just go ahead and buy another bird and partner him with the survivor. So the chiddush here is despite the fact that he was already labeled as the other fellow's partner, one of which is meant chatas, one of which is meant for an oila. It's not to say that he can't now join on with another partner if his one disappears. Parachla ben akrevis. Okay, new story. We have a pair of undesignated birds. One is meant for chatas, one for oila. Now, although it's at this point undesignated, but as soon as you process one as chatas, automatically his partner, just by default, becomes designated for the opposite, for the oila. Or let's say you makriv one as oila, automatically the partner, his teammate, de facto turns into a chatas. So that's the rule to keep in mind, which is the undercurrent of the next couple of missions. So we have a pair, unspecified. One bird, parachla ben akrevis, flew into another group of birds, which were meant for hakrav, nothing wrong with them. But now we don't know what's what, which one is which. The halacha is pasul. Firstly, the imported bird into that new group is pasul for hakrava. And furthermore, he has ripple effect. He will affect another disqualification as well in his former group. Upaisel echad connected. So for example, you have two sets of birds. Let's illustrate it with numbers. We have Rachel's 4 birds and Leah's 4 birds. 2 separate cages. Now, again, they're unspecified, undesignated. But we do know that within the 4 belonging to Rachel, 2 of those are meant for chatas, 2 are meant for oila. Likewise, in Leah's 4, 2 are meant for chatas, 2 are meant for oila, which will yet be identified in the future. But that we know. Within these 4, it's no more than 2 chatas, no more than 2 oila. And likewise in the other 4. And what happened? There was a transfer. One bird of Rachel took off and joined his friends in the other cage. So now we have 3 on Rachel's side and 5 on Leah's side. Says the Mishnah, first of all, you should know pasul. The imported bird is pasul, wherever he is. We don't know where he is in that 5, but it just means to say you cannot process 5. You can't go up from 4 to 5. You have to ignore that you can't use that imported bird. The reason is very simple. See, this case is very simple because you cannot exceed the allotment of the original group. This is something we learned in the first parak as well. Let's say you'll do all 5. For argument's sake, you'll do, instead of 2 chatas, 2 oila, you do 3 chatas and 2 oila. How do you know which one is the 3 chatas? Maybe the 3 chatas that you're doing, if you were a Navi, you would know that the 2 chatas is from the original 4 and the 3rd one is the imported one. Maybe that would be okay. But you don't know what's what. So you can't take that risk. You can't exceed the 2 chatas limit, the 2 chatas allotment in that original group of 4. You're taking a risk. Could you do 3? Those 3 might be of the original 4, which only allows for 2. You might be exceeding that allotment. So right off the bat, you have to take off 1, discount 1 bird. At most you could do is 2 chatas and 2 oila as per the original allotment in the original 4. Now you're playing it safe. So, pasul. Okay, so 1 is off the table. Now let's go back to Rachel's surviving 3. So of those 3, says the Mishnah, upaisel echad connected. The fact that he exported 1 bird to Leah, that automatically disqualifies 1 bird in Rachel's cage as well. The reason for this is because if he goes and processes all 3 birds on Rachel's side, so let's say it's chatas, oila, good. Then the 3rd one he calls a chatas. You know what happens to his partner, the one that was imported into Leah's side? Like we said before, when we have a pair of birds and one is designated, automatically, by default. His partner is designated as well. So if you're going to designate the third one on Rachel's side as a chatas, automatically the one that flew away and now is in Leah's side is going to become an oila. And that's dangerous. That's an issue because now it's like you have an oila mixed into Leah's group. A designated oila. And that's really serious. We had that in the first parak. If you have a real oila, a specified, a labeled oila mixed into a group of birds, you can no longer be marked of any chatas from that group, because you might encounter that oila. So to avoid this issue, we discount a bird on Rachel's side. Leave him aside. Let that be the partner of the exported bird. So by leaving him out of the equation, by not committing him to anything, what we're doing in effect is also freeing his partner over on the other side, leaving the options open to make him into anything, chatas and oila. And now that allows us to process 4 of Leah's birds, 2 chatas and 2 oila, because the imported bird hasn't been designated, hasn't been committed to any cause. And that's going to be the recurring key, the recurring rule throughout the entire parak. If you export a bird, not only did you lose that bird, you have to lose another bird as well, his partner. By putting aside one bird, that covers for the exported bird. That allows that exported bird to be processed in any way you wish. It allows for the options to remain open. Because otherwise, if you're going to process the one here, his partner, wherever he is committed to be exactly the opposite of what this one is. This is chatas, that's going to be an oila, and vice versa. You want to avoid that. Otherwise, you're going to deprive the new group of its opportunities. Better leave it unspecified. Okay, so whenever you export a bird from your group to the next, you have to set aside a bird of your native birds, of your original group. And the one you set aside is the partner of that escapee. And by leaving him alone, by leaving him unspecified, you're also leaving the escapee unspecified, which allows you to process that second group appropriately and salvage some birds, the maximum allowable. Okay, so let's conclude this Mishnah. Parachal ben Akrevis. If a bird flew into another group of proper birds, which are slated for hakrava, puzzle, so that imported bird is puzzle. He also disqualified the corresponding bird in his former group, which has to be left free, unspecified, in order to cover for this escapee. Because that's the rule. A bird that escapes, puzzle, he's puzzle, and likewise disqualifies his corresponding partner in the original group. Ketzad. For example, we have Rachel and Leah. Each one has 2 kinnim, so the kan is the pair. Shtei kinnim means 4 birds. So Rachel has 4 birds. Luzu and Leah also has shtei kinnim, 4 birds. Parachim is Luzu. A bird escapes from Rachel and joins Leah. So now Rachel has 3. Leah has 5. So it disqualifies one as he travels over there, as we explained. Chazar, now let's say he made a return trip as well. The same thing will happen in reverse. He will disqualify another bird as he leaves, as he returns. So in our case, we had 4 and 4, which turned to 3 and 5. We explained why. 1 on Rachel's side is out, which leaves her with just 2 to be makriv. We explained why 1 on Leah's side is out, which leaves her with just 4 to be makriv, 2 chatas to oil. Now let's say a bird returns. We don't know if it's the same one. If we're another, we know it's the same one, then we're good. We're back to square one, everyone's safe. But we don't know. Maybe it was really one of Leah's native birds, Leah's original group that came over to Rachel's now. So what happens now? We lose another one on each side. Here it's very simple because in line with that rule, you have to clear one to cover for its partner. So now let's start with Leah. She's left with 4. But since she exported one to Rachel, she has to leave one out, which will be considered the partner of that escapee. Leave him undesignated, unprocessed, to allow, to enable the partner of that native one, the escapee, to be processed, whichever, chatas or oila. But now, since she had imported a bird from Rachel originally, whose identity is unknown, in order to accomplish this coverage on the escapee, we can't just leave one bird out, because maybe this is not a native bird. That's the partner of the escapee of Leah. Maybe he's the imported bird from Rachel. So it's not going to really do the job that we're looking for. So you have to discount two birds. One on account of the imported bird, and one on account of the native bird, which will be considered the partner of the exported bird. So again, really, technically, you just want to discount one bird, the partner of the exported bird. But since she had imported a bird, which you don't know where he is, so if you just discount one bird, as though he's the partner of the escapee, maybe he's not really the partner of the escapee, he's the one that was imported to Leah's from Rachel. So in order to make sure we have proper coverage here, to ensure that in fact you're setting aside the partner of the escapee, which means to say a local, a native, original bird, you have to set aside two. One, just in case he's the imported bird, which doesn't really help us now, and one as a native original bird. By leaving him free, you're enabling his partner over by Rachel to be processed either way. So you let yourself with two birds on Leah's side. Great. Back to Rachel. She's house 4. Now, basically the same point, same formula. Since Rachel had exported one to Leah, you want to keep that free option open. So you have to discount one bird here too, just like we said before, which would be considered the partner of that escapee, in order to keep him undesignated. All options open. Now again, since Rachel had imported something from Leah, by just discounting one bird, maybe this bird is the imported bird. So it's not really going to help for the exported bird. He's not the partner of the export. He's an imported bird. He's not a native bird. He's not part of the original group. So you have to discount two birds. One on account of the imported bird, and one on account of the partner of the exported bird. So now we're down to two. One chatas, one oila, on either side. So it's the recurring rule that just will repeat itself over and over again. We want to ensure that the one out there is free to be used whichever way works best. In order to ensure that, you have to leave one behind on your side. His partner, his teammate, his corresponding bird. So if you leave him free, then his partner out there is free as well. It can be processed in the best manner. Now let's say the story went on. Parach v'chazar, parach v'chazar. After the second transfer from Levi to Rachel, it happened again. A bird flew back and forth and back and forth. Does it make matters any worse? No. You've gotten to the bare minimum. You can't get worse than that. There's no further loss. You know why? Think about it. Because even if the 4 and 4 were thoroughly mixed up with each other, instead of a bird back and forth, zoom, they all jump together to the same cage. Guess what? You can still process 4 birds. There's no less than 2 pairs that can be processed properly. We had this in the first parak. Why is that? Because picture it. You have 4 on one side, 2 chatas to oila, 4 on the other side, 2 chatas to oila. And they jive together. You can take 4 out of the 8 and do 2 on top and 2 on bottom. 2 on top is an oila, 2 on bottom of the chatas. Because at worst case, let's say those 4 belong to the same person. Unlikely, but at worst case, we have to go with the worst case scenario. All these belong to, let's say, to Rachel. It's still okay for 2 on top and 2 on bottom. That was her allotment. can't go past that point. Because if you do that, you're risking duplication. Let's say you do 5, 3 on top and 2 on, 3 on top and 2 on bottom. Well, the 3 on top might belong all to the same woman. She only has 2 on top. 2 on top and 2 on bottom. But 4 out of 8 is certainly okay. You're safe on that. Next Mishnah. It gets a little bit more elaborate. But again, it's the same key, recurring. The same rule that will be reapplied over and over again. When you export, you have to set aside 1 as insurance. So we spoke about a mix-up between 2 groups of equal numbers. 4 and 4. With a bird flying back and forth. Suppose they're unequal numbers. We have a lineup of women. 7 women in total. Rachel, Leah, etc. First woman had 1. And when we say numbers, 1, 2, it means 1 pair, right? Lazu achas. This woman had 1 pair of birds, so 2 birds. Lazu shtai. Next to her there was Leah with 2 pairs, 4 birds in total. Lazu gimel. The next woman had 3 pairs. Lazu dalet, 4. Lazu hey, she had 5. Lazu vav, she had 6 pairs. Lazu zayin, and she had 7 pairs. And a bird took a walk. He went from the first to the second to the third. We don't know if it's the same bird. We just know that there was a transfer between all the groups. A bird took a trip from the first group to the second, over to the third, all the way to the 7th, and came all the way back on a return trip. So he went from 1 to 7 and back from 7 to 6 to 5 to 1. I made a return trip as well. What happens? Very simple. When you export, you lose. Because you have to leave your exported bird free, unspecified, uncommitted. Right? So it's the same rule being reapplied, but in a more complex way. So let's think before we see the words in the Mishnahs. The first had achas, 1 pair of birds. So when that bird left over to the second group, so she's an exporter, she has to set aside 1 bird. So she's gone, that's it. She can't use her remaining bird. Group number 2, which had 2 pairs, 4 birds in total. So initially, when the bird traveled over from her to the next group, so she was left with 3, but she had to set aside 1. She actually it was left with 4 because she had received 1 from the first group, but that imported 1 can't be used, as we explained before. So when she exported to the third group, she had to set aside 1 as the partner of that exported bird. So she lost 1. So now she's down to 2 birds. She can't use the imported 1, plus she has to set aside another 1 to account for the exported 1. Now the bird took a walk, he went all the way to number 7, he came all the way back down. We're just focusing on this one for clarity's sake. So the bird came back in here and then went back to the first group, to the first woman. So again, Mrs. 2 exported a bird back down the line to the woman number 1. So in effect, she exported twice. So she loses another 1. Aside from the fact that she can't use the imported 1 again, she also loses another 1 because she exported. So since she imported and exported once, that loses 2 birds. And then again that happened. She imported it and exported it again. She loses another 2 birds. She's down to 0. And that's what happens all along the line. Every group loses 4 birds, except for number 7. He's at the end of the line. He only imported from 6 and then exported back to 6. So just 1 back and forth, he just loses 2 birds. So he's down from 7 pairs to 6. And so on and so forth. Pretty simple. We just reapply the same rule, the same principle over and over again. So again, parach min harishayna l'shniya l'shlishis l'rvius l'chamishes l'shishis l'shvius v'chazar, and it came back down the line from 7 to 6 down to 1. Paisel echad l'chasay, disqualifies one as he leaves. So when you export, you lose one. And likewise, on its way back, whoever exported loses another one. So what's the tally at the end of the day? Harishayna v'ashniya, the first and second groups, lost everything. The first one lost everything on the first round. The second one lost everything on the second, on the return trip. Hashniya ein lehem klum, they have nothing left. Hashlishis, the third group. The first two women, Harishlish, the third woman. She had 3 groups, 3 pairs. Total of 6 birds. She lost 4. Yishlachas, now she has 1 pair. Haravi is the 4th woman who had 4 sets. She lost 2 sets. Yishlashtaim, she has 2 left. Hachamishis started with 5. She lost 2. Yishlashosh left with 3. Hashishis, Yishla 6 left with 4. Hashvias, as we explained, only lost 1 pair. Yishlashesh is down to 6. Now let's say this repeated itself again. Parach v'chazar, another bird, came flying up and down the line. So now, again, there was a double import, double export. They lost another 4 per group. Paisel echad b'lichasai, disqualifies one as he's going, and 1 on his return trip. We deduct another 4 birds. Hashlish v'rvius, 3rd and 4th women, and them klum, they lost everything. Because the 4th woman had 2 pairs left before, 4 birds, she lost it. Hachamishis, who was left with 3 pairs, lost 4 birds, which is 2 pairs, she's down to 1. Yishlachas. Hashishis, who had 4 pairs, lost 4 birds, she's down to 2 pairs. Yishlashtaim. Hashvias, as we explained, only loses 1 pair per episode, because she only imported from 6 and exported to 6. It's just a one-time thing. Hashvish Yishlachamish, she's down from 6 to 5. Let's say it happened again. Parach v'chazar. Same story. Paisel echad b'lichasai, v'chazirasai, disqualifies 1 on each direction. Hachamish Hashish 5 and 6 lost everything in them klum. Hashvish Yishla number 7, goes down from 5 to 4. Now here, there's a machlekes. Yesh Oimrim, we turn Talmud Bavli. Some say number 7 doesn't lose anything in this case. In this case, because why do you lose when you export? The point is to cover for the exported bird, to allow it to be processed, whichever way. But here, let's keep in mind, all the groups are out except for number 7. So number 7 technically exported to a doomed situation. The bird that she exported will not be processed in any case. So he doesn't need coverage. There's no reason to set aside a bird on his behalf. He's anyways doomed. Some say, Hashvias, let you see the klum. In this case only, where all the other groups are doomed, number 7 will not lose anything for that last exportation. Okay, let's say at this point we have a bunch of groups that are doomed, and a bird took a trip through the other groups, up and down the the line. You don't know which bird, you don't know what happened, but you do know there was a bird traveling along this line from 1 to 2 to 3, and everybody except for 7 is doomed. So maybe now 7 contains a doomed bird. Harikol Nimus, in this case, they're all doomed as well. Next Mishnah. Kanstu and Mekama Fereshus. You have 1 pair, which is meant to be Chatas and Oila, but not yet designated. Mekama Fereshus. Alongside it, you have a cage with a pair of designated birds. One is labeled Chatas, one is Oila. Parach Mnastuma Fereshus. One of the unspecified, let's call it Rachel's birds, took a trip and joined his friends over at the Meferesh's cage. And you don't know which one's which. So those 3 are doomed because you can't take any chances. You can't do the Chatas and Oila, vice versa. So those are doomed. And now you're left with just 1 stuma. You get Chuzak L'Sheni, just buy him a partner, as we explained before. Pair him up with another one, and then you'll process them accordingly. Chazar, let's say, of the 3 that you had in the other cage, 1 came back. You don't know which one. Now you're back to 2 and 2. Now we're in trouble. And one big grand mix-up here. Let's say initially it wasn't Rachel into Leah, it was Leah's designated birds joining Rachel's unspecified birds. And you don't know which one's which. Harikol Musa, they all have to die because you can't risk processing them improperly. Next Mishnah. Suppose you have 2 cages. Chatas belonging to Rachel in this cage, Va'ila on the other side, belonging to Leah. Okay, so you have a Chatas on one side, Va'ila on the other side. Chatas mekan v'elam ustuma be'emtza. In the middle you have another group of a stuma, a pair which is not yet designated. So far so safe. Parach min emtza l'tztat. Of the middle group of unspecified, the birds took a trip. They split. And each one went in its own direction. One went over to the right, joined the Chatas, and one traveled over to the Ayla. It's still okay. Why? Because the one that joined the Chatas, we process the Chatas, that's okay. And likewise the other one. Each one in a different direction. He hasn't lost anything. Rather, he just says like this. The one that joined the Chatos to the right, he too will be a Chatas. It's plural. There's a group of Eilos. Doesn't matter if it's one or many. The one that joined the Eilos on the left side, Eilah will also be an Eilah. Perfect. Because the Stuma was meant to be half Chatas, half Eilah. There you go. It fulfilled its designation. Now, we're not done. Chazal Emtza. Suppose one bird of each side came back into the middle cage. Now you have a mix-up of 2 birds in the middle whose identities are unknown. So they're doomed. But the ones on the side can still be processed properly. Eila yikruvu chatois. The one on the right will be chatois. Ve'eila yikruvu oilos. The one on the left will be oilos. It's not a problem. Chazar. Some take out the word oy. Chazar sheparach min emsel astan. Let's say there's one more step. Of the middle doomed group, they split again and they went in different directions, one to each side, joining the ones to the side. Now they're all in trouble. Sheparach min emsel astan harikul nimus. They're all doomed because you have designated chatas and oil there, whose whereabouts are unknown. Says the Mishnah, ein meviin toirin. Let's say you're meant to bring a pair of birds. Can I choose one a toir, one a ben? No, I can't do that. So if you have a ben yaina, you have to pair him up with a ben yaina as well. You can't bring a toir and pair him up with a ben yaina. Ein meviin toirin k'nei ben yaina, and vice versa. You can't pair up a ben yaina connected toirin with a toir. They both have to be of the same species. Kate said, for example, a woman who was supposed to bring a chatas and oila. She brought her a chatas bird, or makravit, and it was a tur. Oila ben yaina. She was makrav her oila ben yaina. A mismatch. Tichboil v'tavi oila a tur. She has to go and bring another oila. This time, make sure it's a tur, corresponding with the chatas, which was a tur. Let's say she brought her oilas a tur, v'chatasa ben yaina. The chatas was a ben yaina. So it's the chatas that sets the tone. And since the chatas is a ben yaina, she has to rebuy an oila as a ben yaina. Tichboil v'tavi oila. She has to duplicate her oila. This time, make sure it's a ben yaina corresponding to the chatas. So according to Tanakama, the chatas sets the tone. Whatever the chatas is, has to be followed by the oila. But Nazir Omer, no. It's all about what went first. That sets the standard. Whichever was brought first, that sets the tone. So if the first one was a tur, she's got to follow with a tur, and vice versa, irrespective of whether the first one was a chatas or another. One more halacha. Isha she'ivia chatas. Umeis, a woman was obligated to bring a pair, a chatas and oila. She brought the chatas already during her lifetime, then she passed away. Yaviu yosh ne'ilasa, the yosh and the hairs can bring her oila. Machlekes in Gemara Kedushin, whether we're speaking that she left over, possessions for it. It was, is it their obligation or is it voluntary? In any case, the point is, they definitely could. They definitely can bring an oil on her behalf. Oil is a gift, and they can bring it on her behalf even after her deah. But let's say so she brought her oil and she passed away before bringing the chatas. A chatas is meant for atonement. You need the owner here. Her heirs cannot bring her chatas because it's not relevant anymore once she passes away. The misas mechaper, etc. So it stops there. You can't conclude with the chatas. Okay, so let's do a quick recap of the parak. The first Mishnah, we have kanstuma, which is unspecified pair. One disappeared. You have the survivor here. You just bring him a partner and start over again. Next story. One bird flew into birds which are meant for akrava. A group of unspecified birds. Now we have an extra bird here, imported from this group here. Halacha is you can't use the imported one because you can't exceed the original allotment in that original group. Furthermore, you have to set aside another bird in the group that exported that bird in order to leave that bird free, undesignated, uncommitted to any specific designation. And this allows you to process that second group to its maximum. And that's the key, that's the rule that recurs throughout the whole parak. So for instance, you have, second mission, you have 2 women, 4 birds on each side, and the bird takes a dance back and forth. Each trip discounts a bird on each side, but ultimately, even if it happens many times, you haven't really lost very much, because even if they were thoroughly mixed together, 4 birds and 4 birds, you can still do 4 birds properly. 2 chatas, 2 oilam. At worst case, they all belong to the same person. Okay, she's allowed to have 2 chatas and 2 oilam. Let's say we have a lineup of 1 to 7, and the bird travels back and forth each trip. This counts a bird on its way in and its way out of every group. In line with this rule that when you export a bird, you must set aside a bird in your native group, not counting the imported bird that you've imported. That's not part of your native group. So you have to discount that. And aside from that, another one of your local original birds to cover for that exported bird, to leave him free and uncommitted. This happens many times. You can end up losing many birds. There's a question about the 7th group. Perhaps in that last case you don't lose anything because she exported to a doomed situation. Some say no, she'll still lose because we want to keep it, consistent and to avoid confusion with other cases. We have the next Mishnah of the kan stuma and the kan mefureshes. And the stuma lost one. Pair him up with buy another bird for him. Let's say there was a mix-up with doomed birds. They all are doomed. Next Mishnah spoke about a chatas and oila on either side with a stuma in the middle. And we have some sharing back and forth. We discussed what to do there. And we discussed that it has to be a pair of the same type, Tayrin or Bnei. Pick your choice. You can't mix and match. Let's say you did mix and match, according to Tanakama. The chatas sets the tone, according to Ben Azai. It's all about the first one. An oil can be brought after Misa, but not a chatas. Hadron Loch Kanstuma, all the best to you, and Hatzlacha Rabba.